I don't know if Ryan wants to hop on right now, because what I'm going to say is going to be taken the wrong way, because it's coming. It's not what I'm saying. It's where it's who it's coming from. And I understand that it's definitely kill the messenger sort of day. I get it. I understand that. I don't want it to sound like it's coming from a wrong place, but you folks that know me, that listen to the show, that believe that I can't speak honestly about stuff. All right, I get it. But yeah, we can just kind of call it. We can kind of call it what it is. And for the first thing, look, man, I get, like, if you like the doctor, right? The whole DR thing really bothers me. Like, if you're a medical professional and you're an actual doctor, sure. But if you have like a doctorate, like on an academic side of things, like let's say you're a doctor of, I don't know, historical studies or whatever. Like, do we have to have the same DR that we do for doctors? Like, really? I know that's kind of a strange hill to die on here. But with the selection committee making their announcements yesterday and putting together the bracket, I can tell you this much: there is there's a lot to, there's some snubs. There are some snubs, and it felt like they just gave it to Michigan State because it's Michigan State. Firmly on the bubble. Ryan is on the line, so I'll let Ryan go first about this streak staying alive, which 26 consecutive NCAA tournaments is not anything to poo-poo or to downplay, because that's incredible. But Ryan, good morning to you. I will have you take the floor. Tom Izzo was very nervous. I do have the audio from him. He was on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Doggy last night, and talking a little bit about NCAA tournament expansion. And it was, it's Tom Izzo, man. He's pretty lighthearted. He's pretty funny in some of those one-on-ones with him. But how are you, man? How you feeling? Are you relieved?
Yeah, I'm drinking haters' tears this morning instead of coffee. It's giving me life. People just don't want to respect Michigan State. I get not respecting this team, but as a brand, guess what? Suck it up, losers. Go play someone in the non-conference. All the Big East teams crying, St. John's and Seton Hall and all these other teams. St. John's, I'm sorry, you lost to Michigan this year.
Ugh.
Stop crying. Get the hell out.
Bad.
Automatically. Your season was done in November. Seton Hall, you didn't play anybody in the non-conference. Pittsburgh, your strength of schedule was like in the 300s. So go cry somewhere else. That Michigan State just got in because we're a name. Yeah. So what? Deal with it. Indiana State. Oh, they were a net top 30 team. Sorry. Like, your one big game in the non-conference was Michigan State. People saying they should be in over MSU. Guess what? Head-to-head win. Problem solved. Like, everyone's crying about Michigan State. Virginia shouldn't be it. Like, Virginia lost to Boston College. You're out. You shouldn't be in. Net ranked is 60. Like, sorry. Boring-ass team. Like, get out of here. All the hate's going the wrong way. Look at Tony Bennett.
Wow.
We could sing the blues a lot better than the other teams. So.
No, I mean, look, like, yeah, I don't know exactly, who wouldn't be giving you the respect. I mean, it feels as if, like, Kansas State has the biggest argument.
Kansas State's resume was very similar to Michigan State's. I think Kansas State fans were kind of breaking it down when they lost in the Big 12 tournament. They're like, how are we not even on, like, a bubble? And it's like, I don't know. Like, some of the teams that, like, the Big East teams that were on the bubble, they were on the bubble because they were in the Big East.
Should Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in Indiana State been in the tournament?
Emotionally, yes, because we all wanted it. But when it came to it, sorry, guys, you played like one team in your non-conference, and that was Michigan State, and you lost it. And then you had an A-10 where you went 1-2 versus Drake throughout the season and lost the game that mattered the most.
Oh, man. You know, look, I want to make sure that, like, we, you know, what we say, like, what I say here is like, I'm trying to be I don't want it to be seen as if, like, I am saying this out of spite. I mean, my team is not any good, so I'm not worried about it here. Let's just take a listen to the committee chair, Dr. Charles McClellan. Yes, hold on one second.
Michigan State had 14 losses. Its loss total didn't seem to matter much. It was easily in the field. What is the reasoning for why Michigan State cleared so easily with a record like that?
Well, it wasn't only the record, but it was the wins against Quad 1 teams. It was their strength of schedule and the overall body of work, as we continue to say. We did take a notice of those losses, but they had some significant wins. They had some really big opportunities, and the matrix was there in order for Michigan to be squarely into the tournament.
I mean, the guy doesn't even know it's Michigan State. The guy doesn't even know it's Michigan State. So comparable records, both teams 19 and 14. The net gave favor to Michigan State and had them ranked 24. The other team was ranked 70. The strength of schedule, the other team was 13th in the country. Michigan State was 22nd. The strength of record, the other team was 45. Michigan State was 46. Quad 1 wins. The other team had 5. Michigan State had 3. Quad 1 away wins. The other team had 3. Michigan State had 1. Quad 2 wins. Michigan State had 6. The other team had 4. A bad loss, a.k.a. Quad 3 or Quad 4. The other team had 1. Michigan State had 0. Wins versus the net, top 25. The other team had 5. Michigan State had 3. That is Kansas State being the other team. Wow.
I said that. If you look at the full team rankings, like Kansas State, it's like, yeah, you can pick on Michigan State. How about the 5 teams, 6 teams under them?
My, oh, my.
Everyone wants to pick on MSU because we're a big brand, baby. I mean, you went through this in football. Everyone hates us because they ain't us, all right? Not everyone can make a quarter century of tournaments straight. Generational tournament run.
Oh, not generational.
Justin Thind of 24/7. He goes, when they missed the tournament last, I wasn't born. And he goes, now I'm in my second year of contributing to retirement.
Yeah, no, I saw that. I absolutely saw that. So who would be a team that would be under them that you think?
Get out of here.
Virginia. Okay, so Virginia's in the they're what, in one of the 10 games?
Yeah, they're in one of the first 4. Because in championship week this year was more chaotic than normal. Normally there's like 2, maybe 3 teams stealing bids. Like it seemed like there was like 5 or 6 this year that just created a lot more chaos for the bubble this year. I mean, when you have Dayton losing in the A-10 and all of a sudden the A-10 becomes bracket, you have the ACC, NC State becoming, a play-in team. And even Mississippi State, they were on the bubble before the SEC tournament. Then they whacked Tennessee and hang close to Auburn. Like, they did well to kind of boost their bubble bit. It's like there was just a lot of tournaments, and it was a chaotic bubble year.
A very, very, very chaotic bubble year. NC State really the one that comes in and kind of shocks the world by winning the ACC. And when
Oregon won in the Pac-12.
Yeah, that was not supposed to happen at all. So when we look at this from top to bottom, by the way, you had mentioned Virginia being in this. Like it will get to the other, we'll get into the NIT stuff as well. But your seeds overall, UConn 1, Houston 2, Purdue 3, North Carolina 4. I don't have any gripe about any of that whatsoever. I think that makes total sense. I think Purdue is primed to get bounced out, and not make a Sweet 16. I don't know why I think that, because it's Purdue. If they can't crack the Elite Eight this year, they're never going to do it. It just kind of is what it is. Tennessee is 5, Arizona 6, Marquette 7, Iowa State 8, followed up by number 9 Baylor, 10 Creighton, 11 Kentucky, and 12 Illinois. Duke was 13, Kansas 14. Kansas got an upset special, especially if Hunter Dickinson can't play. They're cooked. Auburn's 15, Alabama is 16. BYU 17, San Diego State 18, Wisconsin 19, St. Mary's is 20, followed by Gonzaga, Clemson, Texas Tech, and South Carolina. That takes us 21 through 24. 25 is Florida, 26 Washington State, 27 is Texas, 28 is Dayton. Nebraska came in at number 29. Utah State at 30, Florida Atlantic 31. Mississippi State 32, Michigan State 33, followed by Texas A&M, TCU, and Northwestern for 34 through 36. Then you had Nevada, Boise State, Colorado, and Drake taking us to the 40th seed. Virginia number 41, New Mexico 42, Oregon 43, Colorado State 44. Shout out to Duquesne, by the way. Keith Dambrot, former Akron coach, getting it done at Old Duquesne. Good for him. Grand Canyon was 47. James Madison was 48 at 31-3 on the year. I think the one thing, and Akron checks in at 56, and then the rest of it's just kind of, you get all your Wagners, Howard, Grambling, Montana State, all your, automatic qualifiers. Akron was 56. Oakland was 55. Now, here's something that is very, very interesting to me. And Ryan, I'm very interested in your thought on this as well. They changed the NIT, the National Invitational Tournament, right? They've changed that up, and the teams that win the leagues are no longer getting automatic qualifiers for the NIT. The Mid-American Conference gets Akron in at the 56th overall seed for the NCAA tournament for winning the MAC title. The MAC does not get a representative in the NIT or the CBI. Now, I don't know if anybody was contacted for the CBI. I'm not really sure. Or the road. I don't even know what the hell it's called anymore. But they do not have a team in either postseason tournament. Are you surprised? I mean, we knew that when the NIT made the change, because we talked about it on this very program, that this was going to screw over the mid-major. But my God, to not even get an invitation to the NIT is, to me, incredible.
Right. And the NIT, we want more major conference teams. And what happened immediately after the bracket was released? About 7 of those teams came out and said, no, we're not doing it.
Which, by the way, Tom Crean was not happy about.
No, and Tom Crean was 100% right. I mean, there are some changes in college basketball that need to be made. The transfer portal for college basketball opens today. So it's that's not great if you're, playing in the tournament and instead of focusing on your tournament game, you're having an assistant or two trying to scout the portal to make sure you can keep contact with a player that you may be interested in next year, but you honestly don't know what your roster will look like within the next week or two.
And keep track of your own players, too. Here's Tom Crean speaking yesterday during the NIT selection special last night on ESPN.
Player. There's no question about it. I would want to coach. I would want to develop my team. You've got bigger staffs than you've ever had. There's plenty of time for the portal. There's plenty of time to talk to recruits. There's plenty of time to negotiate NIL deals. There's not plenty of time to play. There's not plenty of time to get your players on the floor and give them a chance to get better. There's not plenty of time for guys to continue to play that may never get to play again. And that, to me, is absolutely ridiculous. It's each coach's choice. I get it. But if you take away a chance to play the games, to put your team on the floor, let them opt out. All right, the bowl season has it all the time. Let it happen. Who cares? Give your players and coaches a chance to keep coaching and playing, and don't shortchange. If a guy doesn't want to play, go sit down. If a coach doesn't want to coach, go recruit. But there's got to be enough people to put 5, 6, 7 people on the floor and go play. Makes absolutely zero sense to me.
Tom Crean is fired up. And he's right. He's right. Like, this is, I get it to a certain extent. Shout out to Jake Diebler, by the way, getting the Ohio State head job, as he should have. Like, I have no issue there whatsoever. Like, good for him. He did, he steps in, and as a former, as an alum there, for him to be able to go on and coach at his alma mater, hopefully it works out for him, and Ohio State can get back to relevancy. They're going to take the NIT, and as well they should. I always thought that, the NIT, the only way that you say no is if your program is on fire. Like last year, if Michigan would have said no to the NIT, I would have been fine with that. Even though people were asking me because their first round matchup was Toledo, right? And people are like, "Oh my God, you work for both schools. Like, what's going to happen?" And people at Toledo used to ask me this all the time. They would ask me all the time. Anytime Michigan loses a game, people comment to me like it hurts my feelings, right? They were like, "Oh, well, they lost to Indiana." I'm like, "Yeah, Indiana would come out here and drill this conference. Like, you put the conference all-stars together. They don't stand a chance. Are you nuts?" And people would laugh at me, and they're like, "Okay, so if Michigan plays Toledo today on a neutral floor, who wins?" I'm like, "Michigan by 20. And they're like, how could you say that? I'm like, because you don't have anybody that can guard the big man. Period. There isn't anybody in this league that's barely over 6'8". Like, it's not going to happen. Like, your guard play might match up, maybe, but they're going to smoke you because they're bigger, they're stronger, they're more athletic. You're not going to guard Terrace Reed. You guys going to have a field day. You're not going to guard Hunter Dickinson. Like, Michigan's going to win by 20. And then they went to the NIT, and I think maybe Toledo had a lead at halftime. Michigan ends up coming back, winning by like 10. It was like 90-80 or something like that. I don't know. And it's like, people were like, "Oh, well, they kept it within 20. I'm like, you're talking about a Michigan team that didn't even want to be there. Like, they could have opted out of the NIT, and I would have been totally fine with that. In that case, after the season that Michigan had last year, if they would have opted out, I would have said that's fine by me. I'm not going to argue that at all. And that's kind of like, that's the only time where I'm like, hey, our program needs like a full-blown reset. We were, we drastically underachieved this year, and we got to get away from the game and kind of reset ourselves. Then I would say, okay, outside of that, I think you got to take the NIT bid if you're offered. That's me personally. I think Coach Diebler in Ohio State will benefit from doing it, and obviously we'll find out more next year. Tell Ryan that MSU will lose in the first round like they have in the last 10 years. Love Izzy. Don't like Ryan's take. He's wrong as usual. Oh, my God, Ryan is killing me. 26 straight and one title. Ha, ha, ha. Went to a Final Four 5 years ago. Also making the tournament is a hell of a lot better than missing it. Get lost. Well, that's not very well. Relax. Who sent that in? Relax. Take it easy. There's no need for that. I put in the
parentheses. Oh, no, I put in the parentheses because, I don't want to let facts get in the way of a good argument, but we'll let them. So lose, first round like they have in the last 10 years. And they made a Sweet 16 last year and a Final Four 5 years ago. So, and like I said, 26 straight years. I mean, rather, it is kind of asterisk there because they took away Kansas's streak because of Bill Self's violations. So technically Kansas is the longest NCAA tournament streak. I think they're up to like 30. But it's Kansas at like 30, somewhere around there. Michigan State 26, Gonzaga 25, and then it goes to like Purdue at 8.
Oh,
like the sixth longest active tournament streak is at like 4.
It ain't easy. It's not, especially, and I'll give Coach Izzo a lot of credit here. He's been able to do so from the very beginning of his tenure, winning that early title during the 99-2000 season, and then being able to navigate the ever-changing waters of college athletics, especially in today's era where the whole thing has just been flipped on its head. I do want to play this for you because I think this is really funny, and we'll get to the expansion talk here. And I wanted to get, you know what, Ryan, let me get to your thoughts here first. John Wagner joined us in hour number 1. And I think that this is why we hold making it to the NCAA tournament in such high regard, and then also why we look at the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, and the Final Four as their own individual accomplishments. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Because there's, 330 Division I basketball teams, 200 too many. But, when it all comes down to it, yeah, being regarded as one of the best 70 teams and being put in that final bracket is something to be like, hey, you know what? We're still doing it. We're still showing off that we can compete at the highest level, that we will put you in a position, if you come to the school, we'll put you in a position where you have a chance to win an NCAA title. And, yeah, it is really hard because, yeah, winning 6 straight games in a tournament is rough for anyone. Some coaches are better at it than others. Coach K was great. Roy Williams was great. Bill Self is great. Like, I'm not going to put Tom Izzo up there because guess what? Tom Izzo has his positive. Jay Wright was great. They all had multiple titles. Tom Izzo still has one. But granted, how long did it take John Calipari to win one? And now Calipari's kind of facing the same thing Izzo's doing, of trying to just get back there.
Yeah, it's not easy, right? And for the guys that have done it multiple times, it's incredible. It truly is incredible. And with LCA is going to be hosting the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 the weekend of March 28th through the 31st. That's going to be awesome. And I think that although I believe from the outside looking in, I think a team like Kansas State has a legitimate argument. I do. And I know, and I've been one to say this about my football program, that the brand for a long time was better than the product on the field, right? I'm okay, and I'm perfectly comfortable saying that because I don't think that that's false. Finally, they got over the hump, right? They finally put a product out to match it. I guess I'm more surprised that it felt like because it's Tom Izzo and because it is Gruff Sparty on the sweater, that's why they got in.
Sure, some people can feel that way. Like I said an hour ago, I think there's like 5 other teams that you can look at, along with Michigan State, to be like, oh, well, this team shouldn't. Like Gonzaga, up until the bracket release, was on the bubble in between a 7 and a 10 seed, and they were gifted a 5 seed. Like Gonzaga, 25 straight years of making the tournament. They got a favorable, seeding as well.
The Zags.
You know what?
We love the Zags, right? Because the Zags have the Zags have that brand, right?
They have that brand, and I think it's like 8 straight Sweet 16s for them. Because you know what the tournament also wants? They want some TV numbers. It's like, yeah, Indiana State is great because they registered, they got 15,000 tweets over the last 2 weeks. Okay, is that really going to result in TV numbers to where, we are going to be paid?
Yeah, it
Providence, is St. John's going to, politics do come into it a little bit. And if you're upset that MSU is in, like I said in that tweet, I'll say, get lost, I'll drink your tears.
Wow. Jeez. Get lost? Oh, my goodness. That's how you feel. Here is, there's been some talk here recently, and I vehemently disagree with this. I do not want the tournament expanded by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's fine right now. Even the first 4 to me is kind of comical. I think it should be 64, not 68. But if you want to do that, okay, I guess. I can't really argue too much against it. But I will say this. If they're going to expand it, they're going to do so to benefit more teams. As Greg Sankey has already said, and I believe I mentioned on this program last week, his quote, he is the Sith Lord. He wants to have more big-time teams, Power 5 teams, more of his teams in the NCAA tournament. Because he was talking basically about how, teams have gone from the Power 5 basically from the first 4 to the Final 4. And that's the power of these brands and these schools. Okay, that's fine, but what makes March Madness special is the Cinderella story. And if they expand, it's not going to be to benefit teams like Indiana State. It's going to be to benefit teams like NC State. It's going to be to benefit teams like Auburn, right? I'm just throwing out names just because. it's going to get
Kansas State, St. John's. Like, it's the teams that everyone's crying about right now, or it's like, and saying, oh, Michigan State, this mediocre Power 5 team deserves to be out for my mediocre Power 5 team.
Yeah.
It's like you're arguing, like, is an apple or orange a fruit? It's like, guys, they're the same thing.
Here is Coach Izzo when talking about the expansion. He was on Mad Dog Sports Radio. By the way, I love Doggy. I think that Mad Dog on ESPN is a sketch. Like, I think that that's him just playing devil's advocate with Stephen A. But Mad Dog, like his actual show, the way that he covers baseball, like I really like. I enjoy Mad Dog. Here's Tom Izzo joining Doggy's radio network.
There's a lot of talk about tournament expansion. You know, there's been a lot of debate right now about the last four in and all that stuff. Are you in favor of this being expanded? Curious.
Well, I wasn't in favor until there was about one bracket left. I said, let's expand that damn thing to, 100 teams. But, I don't know. I don't follow it enough. I don't want to damage it, but there's so many – parity is so big right now. I think they're going to have to do something, but the excitement of the tournament is the excitement. I just wish, and I never know, what is the true criteria? Is it strength of schedule? Is it the net? Is it the wins and losses? Is the teams you play? There's so many different things, and then I'd feel better. We normally played a tough schedule. I said to my guy, man, we might have played too many tough teams, and yet I think the committee kind of looked at it and said, yeah, they do, and they awarded us in the right way.
That's Tom Izzo, and it's Tom being Tom, right? There he is. Here's the list of the 2024 March Madness teams broken down by conference. The American East had Vermont. The American Athletic had UAB and Florida Atlantic. The A10 had Duquesne and Dayton. The ACC had 5 teams with North Carolina, Duke, NC State, Virginia, and Clemson. The A-Sun had Stetson. The Big 12 had Houston, BYU, Texas Tech, TCU, Baylor, Kansas, Texas, and Iowa State. Now, reminder, Texas goes to the SEC next year. But that's a monster season right now with 8 teams in from the Big 12. The Big East had Connecticut, Marquette, and Creighton. No problem there. Big Sky got Montana. The Big South had Longwood. You probably never even heard of either of those, the Big South or Longwood. The Big Ten had 6 teams: Purdue, Illinois, Wisconsin, Northwestern, Nebraska, and Michigan State. 6 teams in for the Big Ten in what felt like a very down year overall for the conference. This is where, guys like Keisei Tominaga, guys like Terrence Shannon Jr., those guys are going to have to carry. It's a guard league when it comes down to the bracket. Boo Booey, baby. Ryan's best friend, Boo Booey. The Big West had Long Beach. The Coastal had Charleston. Conference USA got the Hilltoppers from Western Kentucky. Shout out to Greg Campy, his 4th tournament appearance of the Oakland Golden Grizzlies. Good for him. Out of the Horizon, the Ivy League sent Yale in. The Metro Atlantic had St. Peter's Peacocks. The MAC had Akron. The Mideast Athletic Conference had Howard. The Missouri Valley had Drake. The MVC had Drake. They had, 3 teams, top 60 in the net? That's crazy. The Mountain West got 6. The Mountain West Conference got as many teams in as the Big Ten. And the Mountain West is where I look at the Mid-American Conference and think to myself, WTF, what are we doing? What are we doing? Because the Mountain West and the MAC, very, very similar when it comes to football. The Mountain West in basketball, New Mexico, San Diego State, Boise State, Utah State, Colorado State, Nevada. How can the Mountain West pull this off and the MAC can't? How is that possible? Luckily, we'll have the coach, Kyle Barlow. He will join us this week to discuss such matters. But that, to me, is just it is insane to me. And the MAC doesn't even get an invitation to the NIT. Not even gonna participate in the NIT. So then you're really talking about nothing matters but the conference tournament. Literally nothing matters but the conference tournament.
We talked last week about fixing conference tournament week. And these conference tournaments were, instead of, hey, look, and seeds 1 through 8 could win. It's like, No, let's put our 1 and 2 seeds. Let's do the WCC model. Let's give them the easiest path as a reward for having the best regular seasons. Let's try to get our best teams. Because, like, looking at this bracket, everyone's like, oh, it's going to be chaos this year because, look, any team can beat anything. But what happened in the conference tournaments? The best teams weren't winning them, so those lower seeds are a lot weaker. They're not those best mid-major teams. They're kind of mid-major teams. So kind of bracket, if you're filling it out, it might be more chalk than we think because a lot of these, bid stealers in these lower leagues got in.
I got to go James Madison over Wisconsin, though. I have to. Like, I'm absolutely – 12-5 is always a dicey one, and James Madison being a 12 seed, 31-3, the winningest team in college basketball this year, including that opening season win against your Spartans.
If you think the committee is kind of rigged and, like, they're paying attention to outside noise, just look at that little region of Wisconsin, James Madison. You have the Pardon My Take guys, Big Cat of Wisconsin alum, and his co-host, PFT, a James Madison alum, placing them together. And then right below them, their producer is a huge Duke fan. Duke is right there. And their other producer called Vermont basketball for 3 years. And all 4 of those teams are together right there.
What is that, the Barstool bracket? Is that better than Nebraska and Texas A&M, though? I mean, you talk about drama.
In both men's and women's, Nebraska versus Texas A&M, Nebraska AD leaves for Texas A&M this week. In both men's and women's bracket, in the 8-9 line, it's Nebraska A&M.
That's crazy. And then, of course, you have the Battle of MSU. Chris Jans, former Bowling Green State University head coach. I loved Chris Jans.
Battle of Rocket Watts, former teams, actually.
Rocket Watts. There you go. Chris Jans, I mean, that guy, dude, he wins everywhere. He wins everywhere. Like certain, Mark Coons was telling me from BCS, and he's like, well, if he would have behaved, like, look, all I saw was the grainy cell phone footage. I don't know what was said. I don't know what was asked. I wasn't there. I saw the footage. I saw what happened. He got dismissed. It is what it is. I still love Chris Jans because, like I said, if the young lady says, hey, I've been working out my glutes, like, go ahead and feel it. Then somebody just like whatever, man. I don't know. I'm not here to ridicule somebody in there. I'm just talking about on the court. The dude wins everywhere. Everywhere. That's what elite coaches do. They get their teams to the tournament. The elite coaches do that.
I'll be fair in this point. If Chris Jans was, stayed at Bowling Green, he would have been gone by now. He would have been poached somewhere else.
Oh, 100%. 100%. He would have had them in the tournament then because he got New Mexico State to the tournament. Everywhere he goes, the guy wins. And so, shout out to my guy, Chris Jans. But, and for the MAC here, real quick, Akron was the number 1 team in the Mid-America Conference in the Ken Pom. Like, Ken Pom is widely regarded by everybody in the college basketball community except for, like, the committee. Scott Van Pelt was like, Ken Pom. Everybody, like, shout out to Ken Pomeroy. He does a great job. And everybody understands and everybody uses the metric until the committee gets in and goes, what's a Ken Pom? And I'm like, exactly. Thank you, Scott. But 4 teams in for the Mountain West. The Northeast had 1 in Wagner. The Ohio Valley had Moorhead. The Pac-12 got 4 teams in: Colorado, Washington, Oregon, and Arizona. The Patriot League had 1 in Colgate. The SEC had Tennessee, Auburn, Kentucky, Texas A&M, Florida, South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Alabama. 8 teams in out of the SEC. Samford from the Southern, McNeese from the Southland, circle them. You're going to want them. Grambling from the Southwestern, South Dakota State from the Summit League. The Sun Belt has James Madison. We're already circling them. The West Coast gets St. Mary's and Gonzaga. The WAC got Grand Canyon, and that is it right there. Unbelievable. What a wonderful time. We're going to dive back into the brackets and all the madness that is March. It is one of the most wonderful times of the year, and it's finally here.